Yes, I do concede that I am under the sartorial influence of Devanand this Sunday morning. There is a reason for that. This is part of a series of personal vignettes from my long friendship with Mr. Anand from 1984 right until the time he passed away in 2011. Sometime in 1977, my brother Manoj was overcome with the wish to write a fan letter to Devanand in order to obtain an autographed photograph of the star. I drafted the letter. That was the easy part. The difficult part was finding Devanand's Bombay address from the Ahmedabad of the 1970s. But somehow we managed to do that with great effort. In those days, the Indian Postal Service had a service called registered AD letters, which meant that the Postal Service not only made sure that such mail was delivered, but that even the receipt of the letter was signed by the recipient or someone authorized. If I remember it right, registered AD mail was mainly used to send legal or other important documents which required proof of delivery. People were not randomly sent registered AD mail, and those receiving it were careful so as not to commit to a potential legal liability by accepting them. We, of course, didn't know any of this as teenagers. We thought of it only as a special delivery, which perhaps meant that the Postmaster General himself personally delivered such mail. After posting the letter from a local post office of Sharda Nagar in Ahmedabad, where we lived, Manoj and I walked back triumphantly as if we had already met and spoken to Devanand. After about a month or so of agonizing wait, we received a response. Sure enough, it was from Devanand's office, but not from him. It wasn't even a letter from his office, but the same registered AD envelope that we had sent. On it, inscribed was rather forcefully refused, as in the recipient had refused to accept it. That was the end of Manoj's quest for Devanand's autograph. 5 years later, as it so happened, I ended up choosing a profession that opened many doors, including that of Devanand's. I became a journalist. I'll tell you the story about how we became friends on September 26th, his 100th birth anniversary. But for now, let me jump to November of 2001. By then, I had moved to San Francisco Bay Area as a journalist and had founded a media company a year before that. Among the many activities was a publishing house called Literate World. Mr. Anand called me sometime in July or August of 2001 to seek my help in the media outreach during his upcoming visit to San Francisco to shoot a movie called Love at Times Square. I explained to him rather candidly that as a journalist, I would not be able to do it. However, I could entrust my secretary the task without playing any role myself whatsoever. He said that worked for him and added that he would like to compensate my company for the work. I told him that wouldn't be necessary. My secretary carried out the task rather effectively, and I thought that was that. On the last day of the shoot, Mr. Anand invited me to a celebratory dinner with him in a restaurant in the city. He was set to leave the next morning. After the usual bonhomie of a lifelong teetotaler that I was and he seemed to have become, I said my goodbyes to him. Just as I was leaving, he grabbed my hand and said, "Wait, Mayank, I need to give you something." He raised his jersey and reached for the shirt pocket. He took out a bunch of signed traveler's checks and gave them to me. "What are these for?" I asked him. He said, "For your company, for your company's help in reaching out to the media." "I couldn't take these," I said. "They are not made out to you, Mayank, but to your company," he said. He stuffed them in my pocket and said, "Let's not argue about that." And in order not to make a scene, I did not argue about that. It was then that I told him the 1977 story of the registered AD mail that Manoj and I had sent him and how it was refused by his office. The irony, Mr. Anand, is that in 1977, I told him, we could not secure just one autograph of yours. And this evening you just handed me a bunch of travelers' checks with 100 autographs by you and without my asking, I said. He looked at me, smiled and said, "What a story." As I was leaving, I noticed that he welled up a bit. Here is to Devanand.